Okay, just before we crack into today's video, let me explain how you can help us. More and more Kiwis are waking up to the fact that New Zealand is in big trouble right now. So how can we turn this country around? The answer is through education. What does that mean? Well, it means exposing more and more people to our videos. It's as simple as that. Just click on the subscribe button on the bottom right-hand corner of your screen, and you'll be subscribed. What happens then? Well, when you subscribe, YouTube sends our videos out to more Kiwis. That's how it works. Subscribing is free. You'll never be charged anything. It's just that simple. So please do it and then enjoy the rest of the video. Thank you very much for watching. Just by subscribing, you can play a big part in the solution to fixing New Zealand. Well done, you. Well, hi, you beautiful New Zealanders. In today's video, I talk about what Maori want most. And what is that? Well, it's an acknowledgement of Maori sovereignty over New Zealand. That's what they want most. And so this is what this video is about. So what's in the box today? In this video, I show how Maori want an acknowledgement by our government that Maori holds sovereignty over New Zealand. Can you believe that? I show how this is a crucially important step for Maori on their road to total control of New Zealand by 2040, according to He Puapua and MATIKE Mai, those two crucial documents put out by Maori. Number 3, I give 13 reasons how we know for sure that Maori ceded sovereignty in 1840. We've got to have proofs and we've got to have facts. Number 4, I show what New Zealand would be like if Maori was sovereign. So watch. So here's a headline. Headlines like this are appearing with increased frequency in our media. This is from the 18th of June, so it's recent. Here's a Maori leader from Ngāpuhi, the largest tribe in New Zealand and the last of the major tribes to settle. He, that's in the photo, that's PETITION, says Ngāpuhi will not accept a settlement from the government unless the agreement states Maori did not cede sovereignty. So what are we to make of this? Well, twisting the meanings. A plain reading of the treaty is clear. Maori ceded sovereignty to the British in 1840. So I'll put a copy of the treaty in the description of this video so you can decide for yourself whether Maori ceded sovereignty. I'll just read the document. So what's going on here? Well, Maori activists have for the last 50 years tried to find a way to get around this plain meaning. See, they got to get around this because this will stop them getting constitutional change and being in control of New Zealand by 2040. So how do they do this? Well, they twist the meanings of certain words inside the treaty. What words? Well, let's examine this together. So here's Article 1 of the treaty. First up, let's read Article 1 of the treaty, which is I call the sovereignty article. And it says, the chiefs of the Confederation of the United Tribes and the other chiefs who have not joined the Confederation cede to the Queen of England forever the entire sovereignty of their country. So it's very clear, isn't it? Maori ceded sovereignty, no problem. One would think that there would be no wriggle room here for Maori activists. Well, not so. Activists say that the English word sovereignty translates to governorship or not sovereignty. See? So historian Bruce Moon says no to them. He points out, the key is that translation is not the same as derivation. This is what Bruce Moon is saying. Thus, English demand is derived from the French demande, which means ask. The English gangway is derived from the Norse gangvei, which means footpath. You see that? That's from his book, The Fair Colony, page 73. So what's Bruce Moon saying? He's saying that the word demand is very different in meaning from the word ask. He is saying that the word gangway is very different in meaning from the word footpath. In the same way, the word governorship is very different from the word sovereignty, yet sovereignty is what was intended by the British. Sovereignty was what was understood by the chiefs in 1840. How do we know this? Well, I've written this paper, as I said, called 13 Irrefutable Proofs that Maori ceded sovereignty, which you can download. It's in the description of this video, so please be sure to read that. There it is there. Okay. So historian Bruce Moon goes on to say, Kawanatanga is undoubtedly derived from a Maori transliteration of governor plus the ending tanga, meaning ship. But despite the chorus of claims that it merely means governorship, its true meaning in 1840 in the Treaty of Waitangi, where it matters, is precisely sovereignty. And there's the reference. He goes on to say, when some Ngāpuhi tribesmen launched their flagrantly false claim that their tribe never ceded sovereignty, Anne Salmon, a historian, she's a paid-out, leaned-on historian and activist historian, told the profoundly corrupt Waitangi Tribunal, Kawanatanga, the right to govern, granted to the Crown at the time of the treaty signing, was not a plausible stand-in for Crown sovereignty. That's Anne Salmon. On the 25th of August 2010, I, Bruce Moon, wrote to Anne Salmon pointing out that her statement was wrong because she failed to understand that the derivation of a word is not the same as its meaning. Kawanatanga was perfectly satisfactory for the word sovereignty. Several Maoris at Waitangi in 1840 understood English and none objected to this translation. Those who spoke made it abundantly clear, that's the chiefs in 1840 in the tent on the 5th of February 1840, those who spoke, that's the Maori chiefs, made it abundantly clear that they understood by signing the treaty document they would become subordinates of the governor and hence fortiori of the Queen. That's Bruce Moon's book, page 78. It's not just Bruce Moon who vehemently opposes those who oppose British sovereignty. Let's examine the words of Sir Rananata, New Zealand's greatest Maori. He says this: one of the greatest proofs that Maori ceded sovereignty comes from New Zealand's greatest Maori scholar, Sir Rananata. If you don't know, he was a politician in the 1920s and 30s. He was also a lawyer, and sometimes even stood in as the Deputy Prime Minister. In Parliament, he was called the Father of the House. Fluent in Te Reo, he travelled the maraes of New Zealand teaching Maoris about the treaty. He said, what remains of the Treaty of Waitangi? What is there in the treaty that the Maori can today celebrate wholeheartedly with you? Let me say one thing. Clause 1 of the treaty handed over the mana and sovereignty of New Zealand to Queen Victoria and her descendants forever. Whoa, that is really clear. It's obvious, isn't it? Sir Rananata considered that Maori ceded sovereignty at Waitangi. Well, you know what? Only a fool would poo-poo his judgment on this issue, but this is what activists do today. It's not just Sir Rananata who vehemently opposes those who oppose British sovereignty. Let's examine the words of author and researcher Ian Wishart. He's done his own research. And there's the reference for the Sir Rananata quote. So he says, this is Ian Wishart on the right-hand side there, he says Maori definitely ceded sovereignty. Quote, in return for these advantages, the chiefs who signed the Treaty of Waitangi ceded for themselves and their people to Her Majesty the Queen of England absolutely and without reservation all the rights and powers of sovereignty which they collectively or individually possessed or might be supposed to exercise or possess. Now he's taken that from the English version of the treaty in the Treaty of Waitangi Act 1975. Wishart goes on to say, this is a key passage, so please note the Maori translation read to the chiefs in 1860. And there's all the Maori, right? The word tukua means cede or surrender. And ngā tikanga, the laws and law, and mana kawatanga katoa mean all sovereign authority. It's not just Wishart who vehemently opposes those who oppose British sovereignty. See? So even Wishart is completely on board with all this. Let's examine the words of historian Paul Moon. And there's the reference for Ian Wishart. Paul Moon, he said this, it's in an astonishing report issued in 2014, the Waitangi Tribunal claimed that the Maori chiefs who signed the treaty to share power and authority with Britain did not cede sovereignty. Professor Paul Moon says the tribunal's conclusion was manifestly wrong, and there's the reference for that. Now I know Paul Moon personally. He was leaned on by AUT, and he's since changed his position on this issue, and he now says that Maori didn't cede sovereignty. So bye bye Paul Moon. Yeah, he's one of the guys that was leaned on. So there's a lot of New Zealand public figures who've been paid out or leaned on or to parrot the official government narrative. What many Kiwis don't realise that if someone is employed by the government and they counter the official narrative, it is highly likely they will lose their job. They call it being cancelled. Well, these people often have mortgages, families, wives, and children to feed. So what are they forced to do? They only have one option. What's that? To spout the approved narrative. So who are these people? Despite all these proofs, who are these people? Well, here's some of the rubbish spouted by activist public figures. Dame Patsy Reddy, she said in the English version Maori ceded sovereignty, whereas in the Maori version they accept governorship Kawanatanga. That's completely false, because the Littlewood draft of the treaty, that's the final English draft of the treaty, and the Maori version are a mirror image of each other. They're perfectly matched. So that's just a lie. Number 2, historian Anne Salmon, she says Kāwanatanga, the right to govern granted to the Crown, was not a plausible stand-in for sovereignty. That's Bruce Moon's just talked about that. Historian Claudia Orange, the treaty had given Britain a nominal sovereignty only, as distinct from substantive sovereignty. Well, there you go. She's a paid-out historian. MP Tariana Turia, she said the principles outline a prescription for a relationship which was central to our constitution, an exquisite blueprint for a nation in which Kāwanatanga and Rangatiratanga sit alongside each other. Well, she's an activist. What else do you expect her to say? Who else is there? Margaret Mutu. The treaty confirms that the constitutional framework and systems of laws that had been observed in this country for many centuries, that is, our mana, tino rangatira, and our tikanga, would remain in place and be protected. The Queen of England's role was to take responsibility for the lawless behaviour of her own subjects recently arrived in this country and to govern them in accordance with Te Tiriti o Waitangi, and Maori are starting to climb out of a crippling poverty and are working together towards the full recognition of our mana and tino rangatiratanga, our sovereignty. Look at that. Jane Kelsey, she says Maori did not cede sovereignty through the Treaty of Waitangi. Now, all those quotes are in Bruce Moon's book, page 72, so you can go and look at those for yourself. I call these people the purveyors of poison. They're just people who've been leaned on to say what they're saying, or either they are just activists. What most people don't realise is that Maori ceded sovereignty twice. How so? First through the treaty, and second by the sale of their land. Watch. You know, we know that the chiefs sold 92% of their land during 1840 or after 1840. After 1840, Maori went on to sell 92% of their land in the decades following 1840. The reference for proof of this is in the description of this video. You can download the document by Mike Butler, which proves this to be true. Please be sure to download and read that document. So Maori relinquished sovereignty in two ways. One, by the cession of sovereignty through the treaty, and secondly, by the sale of their land. You know what? When one sells land, one loses sovereignty over that land. Come on. If you sell your home in New Zealand, when the new owners pay the money and move in, you lose your sovereignty over it. While you were the owner, you were sovereign. When you sold it, sovereignty was transferred to the new owners. Is that not true? The knockdown argument to counter the activist line Maori did not cede sovereignty comes from none other than missionary Henry Williams. Now this guy, Henry Williams, was hugely significant. He was the one who translated the final English draft, what we call the Littlewood draft, into Maori on the night of the 4th of February 1840. So this guy was right bang centre in the middle of the whole treaty writing process. He'd been in New Zealand since 1823. He was fluent in Te Reo and the Ngāpuhi dialect, which the treaty was written in. And he was just the creme de creme of translators and people who were mixing with Maori. Well, he wrote to Henry Williams reported to Bishop Selwyn, and he said this: the instruction of Captain Hobson was not to allow anyone to sign the treaty till he fully understood it. To which instruction I did most strictly attend. That the natives to whom I explained the treaty understood the nature of the same, there can be no doubt. And that was from his journals quoted by Bruce Moon in the book Twisting the Treaty, The Tribal Grab for Wealth and Power, page 35. So what happened on the 4th of February, remember the treaty was signed on the 6th, on the 4th of February, he translated the treaty from English into Maori, and then on the 5th of February, there was all the speeches on the afternoon of the 5th of February, and in the evening of the 5th of February, all the chiefs went up to Titi'i Marae with Henry Williams and his son Edward, and they discussed the treaty well into the night. Now, we're only talking about a one-page document. Now, we know that there was 62 chiefs in that group, and they discussed that treaty all night. So, do you think that they would have fully understood what sovereignty meant? If it was a new word for them, if it was translated Kāwanatanga, from sovereignty to Kāwanatanga, do you think that that would have been carefully explained? Absolutely. So this is why Henry Williams can come back and say to his Bishop Selwyn, his boss, there's no doubt that those who signed the treaty understood it. He says, well, there's no doubt about it. So there you go. If Maori did not cede sovereignty, then we need to know what it's going to be like in New Zealand. The resources of our country belong to Maori. That is all the fisheries, all the forests, all the minerals, all the rivers, all the lakes, all the mountains, the coastline, and so on. Everything belongs to Maori. Number two, if Maori did not cede sovereignty, then Maori have a right to be in control of New Zealand to rule and reign. Number three, if Maori did not cede sovereignty, then all non-Maori are guests here or overstayers. That's all of us. If Maori did not cede sovereignty, then tribal rule must triumph. Democracy is the system of government we have now, so Maori have every right to replace it with tribal rule. Number five, if Maori did not cede sovereignty, then before the law Maori are not equal with all other citizens, they are superior, they're the owners. They have the right to develop a two-tiered society, an ethno-state, an apartheid state. They have every right to do that, which is what's happening right now. If Maori did not cede sovereignty, and as the owners of New Zealand, they have rightfully special rights and privileges not afforded to any other racial group. I mean, if you're the owner of a piece of land, you don't have the same rights over your piece of land as your neighbour has, because it's your land. You see, you got all the rights on your piece of land, and that's how Maori are thinking. If Maori did not cede sovereignty, we could say that this country was stolen from Maori by the British, and the British must give it back, all of it, including your private land. Who's going to do that? Well, the government must buy your land and give it back to Maori. Eventually, Maori will own every bit of land in this country. That's how it's going to be. Maori language must become the main language of our country, so English is going to go. All the schools will be Maori, all the hospitals, all the police, everything. Maori language will dominate the entire nation. So I hope you can see why Article 1 of the treaty and the issue of sovereignty is of crucial importance. Right now, 2025, Maori are acting like they did not cede sovereignty. You know what? And they frequently say the same. By increment, they're inching towards the realization of 1 to 8. And we're creeping towards 2040, which is when they want takeover. So if Maori did not cede sovereignty, the implications for all New Zealanders are absolutely momentous. If Maori did cede sovereignty, then the resources of our country belong to all New Zealanders. The fisheries, the forests, the minerals, the rivers, the lakes, the mountains, the coastline, and so on. If Maori ceded sovereignty, then they have no right to be in control of New Zealand to rule and reign in our nation. Number 3. If Maori ceded sovereignty, they have no right to set up a parallel government. This is treason. Number 4. If Maori ceded sovereignty, then they are equal before the law with all of the other 159 cultures who live in New Zealand. They're not a special race of people who must be treated differently. Number 5. If Maori ceded sovereignty, then by giving Maori any special privilege, the government is propagating apartheid, racism, and separatism. If Maori ceded sovereignty, then Maori, like everyone else, must abide by democratic principles, since democracy was the form of government planned by the British from 1840 onwards. For example, Maori wards and Maori seats must be abolished. Why? Because they're just apartheid. They're just racist. Number 8, all statutes and laws which in any way favour Maori must be repealed. See? So if Maori ceded sovereignty, they must be treated the same as everyone else with no exceptions. Wouldn't that be beautiful? So if Maori ceded sovereignty, then we could say that this country in every respect was handed over to the British legally to be managed by them through democratic elections. Number 10, English will be the main language of the country. If Maori want to grow their culture and language, they can do so on their maraes in their homes, just like all the other 159 cultures have to do, and do very successfully. Number 11, the idea that the treaty is a partnership, Maori customary rights, separate Maori health authority, etc., etc., should be outlawed, because such ideas are clear breaches of cession of sovereignty. Therefore, they're breaches of the treaty. So the issue of sovereignty is crucially important for New Zealand. Again, I hope you can see why Article 1 of the treaty and the issue of sovereignty is of crucial importance. How is it that successive governments are treating Maori as though they did not cede sovereignty, appeasing them at every turn? Luxon and Goldsmith say the Crown is sovereign, yet they act like they're not. They talk out of both sides of their mouths. This is the thing. You know what? They've got forked tongues, both of those two, Luxon and Goldsmith. What is happening in our country is that the Maori chief's cession of sovereignty in 1840 is slowly but surely being reversed, or nullified or undone, so that in effect, the chiefs did not cede sovereignty. Our MPs are saying one thing but doing another. This is the big problem we have. All Kiwis need to be sure that Maori ceded sovereignty. Why? Because if Maori ceded sovereignty in 1840, we must rise up and fight to honour the treaty. Because if Maori truly ceded sovereignty in 1840, and they did, we must rise up and fight against any reversal of that decision. If Maori truly ceded sovereignty in 1840, and they did, we must press Maori activists to honour the chiefs who signed. If Maori truly ceded sovereignty in 1840, we must fight to stop the reversalists having their way. A reversalist is someone who holds to the view that Maori did not cede sovereignty. They are seeking to reverse what the chiefs agreed to in 1840. Well, at the moment, in 2025, the reversalists are pushing hard to have their view accepted by the general public. The media are supporting them. Their view that Maori did not cede sovereignty is wrong. It's fraud and deceit. It must be countered strongly. It must be countered with facts and evidence. We need to stop it, and right now. So let's be sure that Maori ceded sovereignty. We must prove our case with facts, not emotions or opinions or speculations. Our claim that Maori ceded sovereignty must not and cannot be baseless. We need to know our stuff. We need to have a good reason to believe what we believe. We must have proofs. If someone asked you personally to prove that Maori ceded sovereignty in 1840, could you do it? How confident would you be? Well, I'm hoping this video will help. The document 13 Irrefutable Proofs that Maori ceded sovereignty, which is in the description of this video, is a must read. That'll really help us sharpen up and get good about this. Because you know what? The Maori activists have no proofs. They have nothing other than just their opinions. They can't prove that they did not cede sovereignty. They just say it. That's all. They have nothing. See? So, but can you prove it? Can you prove that Maori ceded sovereignty? That's the crucial thing. Okay guys, that's enough for today's video. Thank you so much for watching. Now we need your help with something. This is important. We have produced some great flyers and brochures which we want to get into the hands of all New Zealanders. So we need to go around the mainstream media. They're not going to help. In fact, they're making things a lot worse. So we have to go around them. And we need your help to make this happen. We can't do this without you. So what are we talking about? First, there is our business cards. They're only 3 cents each plus courier to get them to you. Then there is our latest booklet called The Psychology of Takeover, 19 strategies Maori activists are using to take over the country. It's 80 pages and packs a huge punch. So they're cheap, they're $3, and they're absolutely fantastic if you want to get a handle on what's actually happening in New Zealand. Then we have a few thousand of our original Stop Co-Governance booklets left over from my tour in 2023. Remember these? You'll remember we printed 550,000 of these. Well, these are now free because we realized that only about 1/3 of New Zealand houses got this booklet last when I did my tour, and so we want to get to the other 2/3. So if you do a few streets around where you live, that would be absolutely phenomenal, and they are free now. Then we have our MACA, that's Marine and Coastal Act brochure 2, which alert people to the loss of our beaches. You know, we're in danger of losing all the beaches around New Zealand. The text is written by Graham Adams, who's a great author. These are now free. And then we have our beautiful bumper sticker, which we've just made. And why are we doing this? Well, New Zealand's identity is under threat. We know that. First activists have and are still trying to change the name of New Zealand to Aotearoa. We don't want that. We must oppose this. This is rubbish. Where's the referendum saying that we want to change the name of the country? There was none. It was just forced on us. Second, Maori sovereignty flags are appearing more and more all over the place, and they're just treason. So we've got to get these bumper stickers out. So we've printed some awesome bumper stickers. They're $3 each, and they measure 21.5 by 6.5, so you can see how big that would be on your car. To get any of these free products, all you need to do is pay for the courier to get them to you. For the products that cost something, like the bumper stickers or the little psychology booklet, it's the cost plus the courier to get them to you. So to order any of these products, just use this email address, cards@stopcogovernance.kiwi, and we'd love to hear from you. Finally, if you want to access all the videos we've ever made, including all our most viewed and most popular videos, and have them all in one place, which is what people are asking for, then just type in this address into your browser. There it is there, https www.youtube.com/@StopCoGovernance, and you'll find it goes straight to our channel. Then what you do is save this address to your computer as a favorite. Job done. Well done. Then you've got them all in one place forever. And all the new ones that are coming in get placed into that address, so you won't miss anything. Okay, last thing, please, oh please, don't forget to subscribe. When you subscribe, you'll get the latest videos straight into your inbox. You'll never miss a video, which is great. You'll link up with like-minded people all over New Zealand, and that's very, very stimulating to have meet up with all these people who think like you. You'll be telling YouTube, I like these videos, and they will respond by advertising our videos to more Kiwis for free. It's incredible what they do, but it just relies on you replying to comments and making comments and liking things and sharing things and activity. That's what it is. It's just activity on our channel. And turning New Zealand around is simply a matter of reaching more Kiwis with the truth. So just click on the subscribe button on the bottom right hand side of your screen. The little yellow arrow is showing you where it is, and you'll be subscribed. Okay, see you next time. You guys are awesome.